I never ever thought I would ever get arrested, let alone get arrested on purpose. I knew that I was doing the right thing because I opposed the Colombia Free Trade Agreement. Yeah, I never thought I'd do it, ever. Through my time in Peru, I have seen the positive effects of the fair trade business model, and I know how that changes lives. Also, when I was in Peru, the U.S.-Peru Free Trade Agreement went into effect in February of 2009, and I saw the nonviolent reaction of the Peruvian people and the violent reaction of the government to the people. There was loss of life and some pretty big damage, and it was disheartening to see that. And I wrote home to tell my family that I was okay, and they asked me what I was talking about because the news didn't make it back to the United States. And to know that we could enter into agreement and then not hear about the devastating effects of it was a pretty stark realization for me. Knowing what the free trade agreement did to Peru, I don't want that to happen in Colombia, and I know the situation in Colombia is much more stark in the first place. There's a lot of pain and suffering going on, and to add the effects of a free trade agreement to that, I think would be devastating, and I don't want that to happen there. I came to Stony Point thinking about interfaith dialogue and like how great that was going to be, and I got here and realized they're talking about nonviolence and activism as well, and kind of freaked me out a little bit because I never considered myself an activist. And I know the first rally I went to was in this past year. The second rally I went to was yesterday, and it's also the one where I got arrested. And I know I think back to a year ago when I got to Stony Point, and I looked at Rick and I was like, "But Rick, I'm not an activist. Like that's crazy. Like I don't understand it." I got up there and I was holding my sign, and there was a point where I just started crying because there was a wealth of emotion going on. Everything from not wanting to disappoint my parents or my friends, and who all was going to find out that I was doing this, and knowing that it was the right thing to do, and that feeling stayed with me until the arresting officer put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Put down your sign and come with me." And all of a sudden I stopped crying, and I was smiling, and there was a sense of peace and calm, and I knew that I was doing the right thing. My arresting officer was really nice. She asked me some questions about my, how tall I am, how much I weigh, where was I born, all of that stuff. I was put in a holding cell, which was a fairly small room with a big door and a small window, and I was in there for about 20 minutes. I did some yoga. Well, I wasn't going to tell my parents. I didn't tell them that I had decided to do it. When we were driving down on Sunday, it was very intentional not to call or tell them anything. And I wasn't going to tell them afterwards, but things started showing up on Facebook, and I realized that they were going to find out at some point. So I called my mom, and I was really, really worried that getting arrested would disappoint her and disappoint my dad, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted them to be proud of me. And so I called my mom, and I told her that I had participated in civil disobedience, and she kind of whispered into the phone, "Did you get arrested?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." And I kind of explained about what we did and why, and she said, "Well, I'm really proud of you for standing up for your convictions." And I know it really meant a lot to me that she could be supportive of what I chose to do. There is a spectrum of activism. And on the one hand, there is getting arrested in front of the White House. On the other hand, there is the idea of refusing to use plastic grocery bags at the grocery store and using reusable bags. And some people think that this isn't a nonviolent direct action, that this isn't an activist thing to do, but it is, because it's changing the normative culture. It's saying, I'm not going to buy into degrading our environment. I'm not going to use the plastic bag. And there's a step past that, which is committing to buy fair trade products whenever you have to buy a gift for someone, or whenever possible, or buying local goods. And I think the step past that is, getting involved in calling senators or writing letters, and then going to demonstrations and going to rallies. We're all on that spectrum somewhere. And I ask people to look, to figure out where they're standing on that spectrum, and see if God is calling you to grow into that next step, and like what you can do to help create the beloved community. Because I think as Christians, that's what we're called to do. We're called to enact the kingdom of heaven in our lives, and to reach out to the neighbor. And it's not just the person next door to you. It's the person across the border and across the ocean. They're your neighbors too. I have grown to see nonviolence as a two-handed experience, as a twofold experience. On the one hand, there is the dismantling of systems of violence and oppression, and the structures in our society which uphold oppression. On the other hand, there is the need, the demand to create just systems, just and sustainable systems of love and support in our society. And so I think that looks like, working with fair trade artisans and creating products, literally creating products with our hands. We're creating a sustainable life. And then, dismantling the systems is getting arrested because I oppose the Colombia Free Trade Agreement. And I think you need both to create real change in a society.